Hey guys, it's Prince Rich with Rich Technology Group, and today's video is called How We Helped a 4-Location Crab House Get Voice over IP. So, we're going to get into a few things here because this is an interesting one, mainly because it is near and dear to my heart. For those of you who don't know, I love crab. Crab is my absolute favorite food on the planet and has been since as long as I can remember ever tasting crab. For those of you who may not know, I grew up on the water. I'm a fisherman's son. My father is a licensed captain. He's always had boats, yachts, even before he got to a point where he could have yachts and boats and, became like an actual licensed captain and had crew at one point doing charter fishing, and deep sea fishing and all that. I grew up fishing, you guys. At one point, one of my fondest memories as a young, I guess we could say a young boy, even as a teenager and a young adult, was my dad waking me up at 2 o'clock in the morning and saying, "Hey, you and your brother and your sister get dressed. We got to get out there to the Chesapeake Bay, or we got to get out there to the water. When the fish get up, which is early before sunrise." That was one of my fondest memories. Was getting up, going to the bait tackle shop the evening before, going to bed early, getting up early, driving out to the Chesapeake Bay or to the Atlantic Ocean to basically go fishing. I've done river fishing with my dad. I've done, boat fishing. I've done charter fishing. My personal favorite that I always did as a kid and even as an adult with my father was deep sea fishing. We used to have a saying, it ain't far out enough until you can't see land no more. I mean, we would go out, 50, 60, 70 miles out, and that's where we would fish. So I'm a fisherman's son. That's the way I grew up. Last but not least, on my pastime, at one point, I used to live on a houseboat with my grandmother, and she actually had put me in charge of pulling up the crab cages, the crab pots every single morning and, getting the crabs out and all that kind of stuff. So in short, crab is my favorite food, has been for as long as I can remember. So when these guys at Vince's Crab House called me up and said, "Prince, we found you on YouTube." The owner, Vince, actually called me up, said, "Prince, I found you on YouTube. I need help with voice over IP. I heard that your service is free." I joked with him and I said, "Well, first of all, you are correct. My service is 100% free." But I said, Vince, even if it wasn't, there's one thing you need to know about me. Crab is my favorite food, and I will help you guys just because I believe in the cause. He busted out laughing, and we even had a long talk about my pastime, and he told me a little bit about his and how he got into the business. But so this is just to talk to you guys about who these guys are, what they do, and how we helped them out. So Vince's Crab House is out in Maryland. Now, for those of you who may be watching that are from different parts of the United States, and you've never been to Maryland, there's one thing you need to understand. I'm sure no matter where you are from or where you are currently in the United States, you've heard the saying, there's no crab like Maryland style crab. Let me tell you guys, it really is true. I always grew up all my life eating crab out of Virginia and from the Chesapeake Bay and things like that. But as I got older, I started this company. I remember way back when we actually had a phone system project that we had to do that was in Virginia, but it was on the Maryland line. And I remember at one point I was sitting there with my staff. We were all hungry. It was late in the evening. The project was done. And I was like, you know what, guys? Maryland's pretty close. Why don't we go and try some Maryland style crab? Because I never had it in Maryland. Let me tell you guys, as somebody that grew up a fisherman's son, and I've had every type of seafood you can think of, at least in the United States, I can tell you that Maryland crab is like no other Maryland style crab. So these guys, and it's funny, I just realized too, in my video title, I said 4-location, 4-location crab house, but actually it's 5-location. He must have added a location because I could have swore there was only 4 when we worked with these guys some months back. But anyways, there's no crab like Maryland style crab. So anyways, back to these guys. They are a crab house that's out in Maryland. They've got a location in, let's see here, Middle River, Maryland, Dundalk, Maryland, Baltimore, Maryland, Manchester, Maryland, and Fallston, Maryland. The thing that's interesting about these guys is while I want to say 3 out of their 5 locations are actually dine-in like restaurants like you would see in a normal seafood restaurant anywhere else in the United States, Two of their locations are takeout only, and one of their main restaurant locations is kind of like piggybacked by part of the building is a takeout. At one point, I was a little concerned for these guys, like how they would do during the pandemic and all, with everything that's going on. With a lot of the states have had sanctions shutdowns with restaurants and stuff like that for safety reasons, but also just with everything that's going on in the current economic climate we live in. A lot of people haven't been dining like they used to, whether it be for safety reasons or just because they don't have the money with everything that's been going on. But these guys were actually set up perfectly, because I remember when talking with the owner when all of this had started, he told me, he said, well, we were always set up with the vast majority of our business being for takeout anyways. So it was good to hear about that, because I was a little worried about these guys, and I truly believe in and love their cause because I'm a crab lover myself. So anywho, their scenario, just without giving out too much of their business, was these guys had 5 locations. Like I said, 2 locations were takeout, with one of their main restaurants that they call like kind of the headquarters also having a very popular takeout area that had a couple of phones for just takeout callers and stuff like that for people to call in and then pick up. They ended up being, I want to say, close to about 12 to 14 extensions across the entire restaurant, the entire business. So a pretty decent sized little operation that we helped them set up. These guys lucked out great, because I was really concerned, because when I looked them up online, I saw that most of their locations were in some kind of rural areas. And I thought, oh man, these guys are not going to have the internet necessary, being rural, being next to riverbanks and out off the beaten path. But strangely enough, this guy ended up having Verizon Fios, which for those of you who have frequented my channel, you know that we pretty much say that Verizon or Frontier Fios is the best internet that you could possibly have for a voice over IP setup. I couldn't believe it, but these guys had Verizon Fios in every single location. So they were a prime candidate for voice over IP. And if nothing else, just having a phone system, and we set it up in place for these guys just in time. It was back in like March of 2020. We set these guys up just in time for when all of the stuff with the pandemic hit. They had the perfect phone system in place, hosted voice over IP, to be able to work remotely and still take their calls no matter what was going on, whether their doors were shut or whatever. They could still take their calls and work remotely and social distance and all that kind of stuff. So we were really happy that the timing with that fell in perfectly before the proverbial what hit the fan. And then just, you guys know the rest of the story, the rest of the story with the state sanctions and the closings of, and all that kind of stuff. These guys needed to reduce costs. We were able to save these guys quite a bit of money on their phone system. I mean, quite a bit. I won't give you guys figures, but it was in the hundreds of dollars a month that we were able to save these guys. We were able to get them a unified system. As you can see, these guys have got 6 locations. The previous system that they had didn't join or conjoin these locations whatsoever, but now, because of the carrier that they're using, all of these locations, even though they all have separate local numbers, which you can see here, which these guys ported into the system, they can also dial the extensions of each location, or just pick up the phone and dial a few digits to call different persons at different locations, and so on and so forth. That's great if somebody calls in and says, hey, I'd like takeout for this. And they say, oh, what's your address? And they say, oh, you know what, Mrs. Sally, you called the North Point location. Our Middle River location is more suited for what you're trying to do. Oh, okay, no problem. Can you transfer me over there? They can do that now with this phone system. Let's see, what else do I have on my list here? Really, in short, we were super duper happy to work with these guys, not just because we're always happy to work with any type of business that needs voice over IP, but because I am a huge crab lover. It is my favorite food on the entire planet. Like, I used to joke with people and say, I would bleed crab if you cut me deep enough. Like, I would actually bleed crab, not blood. We were happy to help these guys, not only because we love crab, but because, we could help the cause. For those of you who are watching this, if you're ever out that way, I don't know where you are, but if you're ever, if you're in Virginia or you're in Maryland and you're ever out that way, go and support these guys. If you've never had Maryland style crab before, these guys will, they'll show you a good time. They'll show you what good crab is all about. So again, if you're watching this video and you are a small, medium, or even a large restaurant, whether you've got single location, multiple locations, you may be a franchise restaurant, I can help you figure out what phone system or the best type of phone system works best for your business. Give me a call. I'll chat with you about what you've currently got, what you need, and then I'll be able to help you out, make recommendations and even get you special pricing on what makes sense. My service is free. I represent all voice over IP service providers in the United States. If you found this video helpful, please like this video. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Prince Rich with Rich Technology Group, your go-to guy for the best deals on business phone and internet service in the United States. I'll catch you guys again in the next video.